So this really, I think, is one that it would be, if we have something like this, it could be a potential for a starting point. If you go through, next slide, please. But I think all of the businesses, when they see something like this happening, more businesses might take part. Next slide. That building is going to be hopefully rehabbed. Next slide.
That needs to be demoed.
It does. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Pointing out some of these facades that I don't think we always look at. I think some of them are under the radar, and really, even with an awning and a new coat of paint, you'd get a better signage application. You'll get a better walking appearance in downtown. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. I put some nighttime. It's a rough corner right there. Next slide. Next slide. Put some evening shots in here. This one in particular has some. We might even want to consider enforcing more of our lighting codes around windows. There's a lot of LEDs, a lot of flashing lights that get through, a lot of chasing lights still. That, the difference between a walkable city is also at night, and a lot of these businesses, their facades don't incorporate some of that downward lighting that make the street feel safe. So next slide. So I'd like to include lighting into the next slide. Some trees. Next slide. Next slide. So next slide. Like that. Chase lighting. You see how it's, what happens is they put up this lighting and it sometimes falls and sometimes it's chasing. I think something like that we could also codify. Next slide. Clearing the windows. That's part of what other cities do. They don't have as much windows that are covered with signage. It's part of what studies have shown that that's not really something that people stop and want to go into when the windows themselves are covered. You can't see beyond them. Next. Next. I think this particular street would be the biggest makeover. This particular section of town from one to the other. If this block was redone, this would be my next target to do a rendering for. The actual architecture underneath these buildings is really attractive. It's just not been taken care of. It's
forbid certain color.
We could. You could encourage certain colors. We're not, in places like Nantucket, I think Lance mentioned something last night. They will put a gauge on the size of your shingle and put a color swatch up against it. They're that, dogmatic about how much control they have. I don't think we necessarily need to go there, but maybe somewhere in between. Next. That section could be with awnings and signage and new trees and new trash cans and new sidewalks. That would be a downtown people could be proud of and would want to go visit, even if they didn't have to go there for some particular reason. They're all great businesses, the ones that are open, but it just lacks the destination that I think Ventnor needs to get it to the next level. And I think this little bit of help could encourage businesses to do more. Next slide. Next slide. You can go through them with a slight pause, and then pause at the last. You can keep going, Jim.
Wait for the tumbleweed to come.
Yeah. Next. Next slide. I want to show next slide. At nighttime, there's another one. At nighttime, some of these lighting, you can go back to that. I think there's also some codes that discourage certain amounts of light. And I think we have to be careful of that at night. Some of these are pushing light out onto the street that's almost too much. So if you see this versus what the theater has done, the theater was a professionally designed lighting plan on the outside. A lot of these are not that, to put it nicely. Next slide. Next slide. And I'm not picking on any one business. I'm just saying we can raise the bar as a city in general. Next slide. There's another one. This one changes from color to color over time at night. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Keep going. They do a really nice job at that. Actually, Wawa and that area at night has a fairly nicely lit. But if you go down the block a little further, next slide. At nighttime, that looks fantastic, and it's a great business. But this next few blocks, next slide, next slide, next slide, and we're into. I guess I missed it, but in Dorset Avenue as well. I think in my opinion, the building on the right has set a great standard for that block. I think the other businesses need to sort of follow their lead in some ways, and I think that's how neighborhoods change. And maybe this giving them a little bit. I'm not saying we're doing all of it, but maybe we can find the right number for a major improvement and a minor improvement, and incorporate a tax abatement that encourages it. Next slide. Next slide. Next. 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 You can see, I think we can also do more with our streetscapes. Next. Next. We've got a really diverse group of designs here, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that I think that there's like, this is an old slide. They've actually improved quite a bit, but I think they don't. None of them all have an easy start. Trees and trash cans. Next slide. And there are and then we can leave it at that. There's a lot of data out there. We're not on new territory here. This is done in other cities for the same reasons. Cities that are in more need than we are, but I think we owe it to the city itself just to make it more of a destination. And the next wave of improvements are as we gain more people, they expect to have downtowns that have these kinds of this kind of care and taken to it. So I'd ask to just start to hash through an ordinance if you guys would support it.
I'm wondering, of the businesses, how many of them are like, they don't own the building? Does that have an impact at all? I mean, I know the owner would have the benefit of the tax abatement, or
That's their building.
not only the business.
Yeah, it's their building, and it also improves their value. Here's some other cities, and you can see that even at night, the lighting is shown. There's a little bit more unified. These are some cities, and this is up in upstate New York, that have that kind of and then I'll just leave it at this rendering. So yeah, it's definitely improvement for the ownership, but it's also improvement for the tenant. So that's between the ownership and the tenant, I guess, is whether they would have
still that benefit there.
Yeah,
and it's a win-win.
Right. Some long-term tenants might want to put some of that, you might want to share in that investment with their ownership. I had a storefront for 7 years, and we did we did new signage, we did new air conditioning, we fitted out the interior. Those are things that tenants do, and to improve the saleability of their product or service that they're selling. So
do you think whether if the building is owned by the business or not owned by the business will change anything, like the success of this? Or
I think we have to write it into the ordinance in some ways, right? I mean, I think there's a way to. I think it's the primary beneficiary is going to be the owner.
I think that's the only way to do it. You really can't give money to the tenants.
Yeah.
So the only way we can do this is through a tax abatement.
Perfect would benefit the tenant.
Yeah,
Definitely benefit them.
yeah. If I own a building, I also want to see that tenant. It's also it's like a remodel like that improves the quality of the building and potentially the value of the building. But it also, I think it sets the tenant up for success as well, no matter what the business is. So
Interesting.
I don't think it will happen everywhere, but I'd like the capacity to have the option. And I think the more likely thing would be a smaller amount, say 5 to 10,000 or 7,000, somewhere in there, that would be specifically for awnings, signage, and, m- maybe painting, and that would be something that the ownership would also benefit from, but it would be something that you might see a faster cycle of improvement happening, and then a larger scale, something that had something like this that has more construction, replacement of windows, replacement of redesign of facades. I mean, you've seen it in Atlantic City, I'm sure.
Mhm.
That I think we could do it better, and I think we can have more success.
Do you think it would be maybe helpful for the smaller improvements if we had renderings or like a shopping list of for these businesses?
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah.
Well, what Tim did in his you almost do form-based code for it, which I can't believe I'm even saying that because that's a terrible way to do land use, but it gives you ideas and images
Right.
of what you want to see in like that. You don't put colors, you can put colors to it, but you say, look, this is the awning type we're looking at.
Right.
This is the window style we're looking at. This is the facade styles we're looking at. And you give them a couple examples. And that's how you would.
Yeah.
I'm asking for us, I mean, we don't need to talk about this now, but
It can be part of
Like,
the document.
like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't want us telling people what they want to do.
No, and we
I have
can,
no interest in that.
I'm
we,
thinking you don't want it all different either. Want some symmetry
Well,
on the block.
no, I think you have to walk the line of
I'm not a fan of that.
subjectivity. You-
I
Yeah,
mean,
we can't be the, I
Like
don't,
that pink building.
yeah.
So it's their building.
Yeah,
Yeah, no one tells you what color to paint your house. I'm not telling somebody what color to paint their
Yeah.
building. I'm not a fan of that.
yeah, and I have to agree with Lance on that. I don't.
I don't
think
like
there
it,
should be a-
but it's not my call. I don't pay the taxes on that property.
Yeah.
It's unless you're going to go in and you're going to do a historic district like Haddonfield, where they're going to tell you what size windows, what mullions, what type of window you're going to put in. I have no desire to do that. I've been in front of those boards. I have no desire to make people spend that money.
Yeah.
Because it's thousands of extra dollars to do new windows in your house.
But we don't have to make people spend money. We can tell them, look, you
If-
can't have.
No. If you create a historic district, like the way you were, the only way to do what you're asking to do is to create a historic district. And when you do that, you set up an architectural review board, and those folks are going to tell you what color your house is going to be, like the Nantucket example that Tim gave. I have no interest in that.
Yeah, they make the McDonald's in Nantucket looks like an old fishing village house.
Right.
And that there's real, I don't know that there's any in between space there. I think that all I'm saying is that give people a little bit more tool to get them to the next step.
And that's what I like.
I do professionally, I design hundreds, I've done thousands of kitchens. I don't like all of them because some people have you have to bend to their personal taste. I do the best kitchen for that person, or make the best choices for that person. But I don't think we want to be that. I don't think we want to look at the peace pie. I really didn't like the idea of how that looked, but it's kind of appropriate for I mean, look at, if you go to, I think, and we don't have to get into a discussion about what Ventnor is, because I think that's what the business owners need to decide, really. I don't think that we're going to be the arbiters of what is good design or good color, because that's different to everybody. There's no really good answer to that.
But I like the idea of putting the carrot out there.
Yeah.
The stick can be the window stuff that we don't like right now, like too much stuff in the windows and the chasing lights and all that. That can be the stick. But the
Right.
carrot can be, if you guys are going to spend 50 grand on your building facade, then you're going to get a tax abatement over the next 5 to 10 years, whatever we decide to be. That, I think, is the carrot to get those folks to do this work.
I think there's probably a place where there's a review of I think in a lot of these ordinances that are existing, they have to submit an estimate and a drawing.
Yeah.
And in some cases, there's palettes that cities offer as a suggestion, and I think you could look at, personally, I would go to like the Historic Society. I would look at what we have some really attractive buildings that are still around from the 20s and 30s and 40s here that you could bring some of that back, but you could give them guidelines and then allow them, because there's certain there's certain things that the ownership wants to do. If I wanted, certain colors on my storefront and my sign design, I was adamant about what I wanted to do, and I'm sure these folks are too. So anyway, I just think there's a way to get, to encourage businesses to do two sizes, a small, signage and awnings, large, a real improvement on facade that might include things like, window trims, siding, roof, there's a lot of,
dollar threshold.
you're doing a dollar threshold. Yeah. Yeah. Like 20, yeah.
You spend 10 grand, you can get this much of an
Correct.
abatement. You spend
20 grand, you get this much.
and if you the higher you go up, the more longer you get.
Right.
Longer and more you get off.
And it's finite. We're not giving them 100% of it.
No.
We're giving them 50 to 75%.
Allows them to pay that investment off, getting money off their taxes.
Right.
That's how I would see it going.
All right. Well, let's
You had something,
sketch.
I was just going to say, with regards to the improvement, the idea is, as I read the statute, that it has to improve the value of the building. So you would have the tax assessor involved with that, with what the value was before the improvement and then after the improvement. So it depends on what they're proposing to do, but it would have
it's
to.
not just their contractor's dollar amount, because they can get somebody to.
No, it's improving the value of the
Yep.
property itself.
Right.
And given our very low tax rates, you have to make a very substantial improvement to really see an assessment go up that raises your taxes very much.
Right.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Well, I'm
So-
saying, I mean,
but-
if you spend $10,000 putting up awnings, that's not going to add a lot
Right.
of taxable value to the property that you can
Right.
then give an abatement for. I mean,
Right.
what's the taxes on $10,000?
Right.
Not very much.
Right. So that's better. So it favors the business owner.
Correct.
And I think if you get one or two, you start to see I think hopefully something like this grows organically and one business owner talks to another. The VBA would be involved, I'm sure, in promoting it and understanding it and pitching it to their,
I think we take that
yeah,
on the road
yeah,
to them.
yeah.
One of their events, we host it somewhere here. We can do it here, wherever they want.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a spot where we can do it.
The other mechanism to possibly look at is to do a special improvement district. And I don't know whether you want to get into that, Lance. Are you familiar with the way Atlantic
We
City's
raised
work?
that, or I raised that with, before we had a business association, before the VBA was around, our first year in, I met with probably 7 or 8 of the larger businesses. I don't want to say larger, some of the historic businesses here. And I raised that, and it did not, a couple of businesses were for it. They understood it. So what a special improvement district is what they have in Atlantic City. So it's the SID, or Rick.
Right.
He's very familiar with it. What you do is you assess the properties that are in that district based on the frontage of their street, their property frontage on that street. You put a dollar amount on that street frontage, and you assess them an amount of money to do improvements. And then we do the improvements. We can hire folks to clean the streets more detailed, like on the private property even. Like right up to the front door. We don't do that here. We allow the property owners to do that. But Sid does that in Atlantic City.
Right.
They clean the streets, but that money is also, it's another tax, basically. So
it's
that's
another tax.
oh yeah. And it can be significant. I mean, we wouldn't be anywhere near what Atlantic City charges folks, but and we would probably have to splinter off or create a maintenance group out of Public Works, I would think, to do that work.
Probably have to hire.
We could outsource it. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Was substantial, but then you had some property owners willing to do it and some not, was like chop. Right?
Yeah. But and the SID didn't really, as soon as, there's a fee for it, and they typically go up like everything else. So
Yeah, I think this is a good. first
I
step.
would agree. I
I-
like the options and work it through a little bit, massage it, come up with some levels. And you're right. You can, and I'll use the example of the green zone redevelopment plan in Atlantic City.
Right.
They have facade requirements. When you improve a building,
Right.
they have requirements. So, and there's the CRDA reviews the plans, but we don't review the architecturals. The city brought in an architect to review them, and they do a report saying, yes, you meet that requirement.
Right.
We could do the same thing.
Right.
You'd have to hire the architect to do that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that the business, as a small business owner, you get to be very resourceful, but there, when you have a good year or a bad year, you don't want to have, the last thing you want to hear is another tax. But I think we could do it even in the terms of a micro version, like a few $1,000s. You could have stages where if somebody just wanted to get a new awning or wanted to get a new sign and it helps them out in a small way, that's something that, that you might find a tenant, a side arrangement with a tenant and
Yeah.
and an owner.
I think that might even be, I get that we could include that in here. I think that might be cumbersome for how little
For
benefit
how
they're
little
going to get.
benefit they're going to
So
get.
that I think we need to keep focusing on having Jim Rotella look for grants for that. And then we can facilitate those grants that way.
Yeah.
They're hard. They're hard to get.
Yeah, I just feel like if we can give it a little bit of a boost here.
I agree.
To get-
And if for the larger ones, like the Dollar General design there, that would be something that would be worthwhile doing a significant
Yeah.
lengthy tax
You
abatement.
you won't have a lot of takers on some of on some of the small ones, but
No.
you might get a little bit of improvement, and that's what keeps the motivation going from business to business. We have a lot of those round awnings, which tend to have a odd look, in my opinion. Again, this is opinion, but those rounded awnings are things that some cities,
They were a big thing in the 80s.
they were a big thing in the 80s, but in some of these facade ordinances that I've looked at, they discourage them because they overpower the facade. The rollout awnings or the more or the canvas ones that have signage that have lettering across the front edge. Those tend to be more appealing for people that are for a walkable space.
You can discourage certain
You
things.
can discourage same thing. Yeah, you can discourage certain things and encourage certain things. Yeah,
Pink and purple.
like pink and purple. Trust me, I didn't.
I understand that's going to be a new business going in there.
I thought so. I
I
heard.
heard a small batch bakery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everybody loves a bakery. All right. Anyway,